unironically one of the funniest panels from today's chapter of Chainsaw Man, but in a very scary way. Because it's like, if theoretically Yoru was wrong about her not being able to use her devil abilities, she theoretically could have ended her life and Asa's life in this very moment, which would have been a very shocking and crazy conclusion for a said character, but regardless, that did not happen, so I could talk about this in a slight comedic way. The point is just like, it really demonstrates how Yoru's very mindset is. She's someone that takes action before thinking. She, doesn't think about what she's about to do. She does something and then she thinks about it later. That's clearly what has always been on display with her character for a very long time. And obviously she is an extension of Asa as a character too, but I'm not going to get into that. The point I'm getting at is that with her doing this whole signal of bang and then obviously know what would have happened if her abilities could have worked here, that would have meant that she would not just have risked her life, but Asa's. And even though theoretically the War Devil wouldn't be permanently dead, because we do know that devils go back to like hell, they reform and all that point, the point is that Asa would be permanently gone. So this kind of demonstrates that even if Yoru wasn't thinking in this moment, like she wasn't like necessarily trying to be malicious or evil, it shows that because of her lack of thinking, she really does put Asa's life in danger, and in this case, Asa could have died right here. And it shows that the relationship is becoming more and more complicated as time goes on, and I am curious to see what Asa really says about this whole ordeal once, multiple chapters have passed and they have time to really think on this whole situation. Hell, actually, they might have a lot of time to think, since technically our characters, Asa, Yoru, and Denji is stuck in this, like, demonic realm of, like, the aging devil, and where nobody basically can age whatsoever or die. They're gonna have all of eternity to really just think about what they want to do or how they really feel. So, more or less, the way this arc is being set up, or at least this segment of the story, Fujimoto-sensei is more or less setting the stage for Asa, Yoru, and Denji to get their feelings out on the table and to really communicate with each other. Because it's like, when you are stuck in a room with someone for so long, for let's say days, months, years, or in this case, eternity, you're going to get to know those individuals pretty well, because they're going to be your roommate. And on top of that, one big thing that, this chapter and last chapter demonstrated, if you, do not have anyone to talk to, you go crazy. And eventually you would go crazy even if you just had maybe one or two, but it would definitely ground you to reality a lot longer. In this case, thanks to Yoru and Asa having each other, but also having Denji there, they won't go as crazy as these other people that we've clearly seen within this realm. For instance, the Aging Devil's realm. So we can only say more or less at this point that they're going to be able to communicate and finally say what they really want to say to each other. So I'm curious to see the character development that is going to be on display. Like, this arc is definitely being set up for character development, which I'm all for. I think that when it comes to the character-driven story and development of the characters besides the action, it's the best parts of Chainsaw Man. I know there's a lot of people that would theoretically disagree with me, but I legitimately do think the character interaction development is the best aspects that Fujimoto cooks up. Anyways, disregarding that for a second, I guess it is time to talk about the final page of the chapter, and that is this. So this is, the fourth time since, Asa, or in this case, Yoru, has kissed Denji, and I'm just like, for one, I don't know if it's just me, but I think I've come to the conclusion that Asa and Yoru definitely have some feelings for Denji. Or at the very least, it's definitely apparent that Yoru does. Because it's like, we know their emotions are linked. They are connected. This has been established literally since the beginning of part 2. I'm not going to get back into that. So because of their emotions and mental state being linked, you can kind of chop this up to maybe the reason why Yoru's acting like this is because of Asa's feelings towards Denji. Because we know that Yoru doesn't like Chainsaw Man. We know this. She hates Chainsaw Man. She's salty, she's upset about it, losing to Chainsaw Man, so we know that, but deep down we know that Asa likes Denji, and those feelings are probably reflecting in Yoru, and then they're coming to the surface and not really knowing how to handle it, and she's a type of character, which I've already demonstrated talking about this segment, a type of character to do actions before thinking, I feel like that's basically more or less what's going on in this situation. She is doing something before she even thinks about what she's actually doing or why she's even doing this in the first place. She's not really, actually coming to terms with why she's doing these type of actions, which is interesting for her character. But regardless, I think at this point, correct me if I'm wrong, people go back and fact check me, but I believe this is the third or fourth time she has kissed Denji, and at this point, Asa has never kissed Denji once. I want to make sure I state that Yoru's the one that always does this. She initiates and kisses Denji. And I'm just like, holy crap, like, let Asa speak her feelings. Let Asa say what she wants to say to Denji and all that. Like, Yoru, what are you doing? Definitely going to lead to a complicated relationship, honestly, because if Yoru and Asa are here to stay, like, they're always going to be linked to the end of the story, it's going to be a very complicated, relationship between the characters because of just what keeps going on here. Anyways, disregarding the whole kiss segment, we do need to talk about Denji's overall state right here. So, Denji is once again back at the state he was about 10, 15 chapters ago when, obviously, Yoru was doing the whole thing. He's back in this mental state, he's not cheered up anymore, and he's actually... He's blaming everything on himself. Even if it was indirectly, he is basically blaming himself for everything while they're stuck here, why everybody's coming after him, why people die, why people suffer, all these different type of things. He's blaming himself and he's feeling very guilty and upset about that. He feels like he's a brain-dead idiot. There's nothing going on, which in reality, it's kind of ironic he says these things because in this moment, I would say that Yoru is that brain-dead, horny idiot in comparison to Denji because of this scene alone. But anyways, Denji obviously is down in the dumps, he's not feeling too well, and it looks like this scene is definitely going to be setting up the stage for them to finally communicate their feelings, because like I said, they're going to be stuck here for a very long time, so all they're going to have really to be able to do is talk with each other and do other things, you let your mind wander and imagine. But anyways, I'm curious because, like, this is a big hurdle that Denji needs to overcome, acceptance of just, like, the loss, because it's, like, clearly a lot has happened since part 1 of Chainsaw Man, and, he's definitely grown a lot since the ending of part 1, but one of the big things is now accepting his survivor's guilt. I feel like that's a big thing that Denji has, is that he has survivor's guilt. Like, everyone that he knew and loved died around him. Like, just everyone he met, anyone he really came in contact with that brought joy into his life, they have died in some horrific way, and it really pains him. So it's survivor's guilt that he clearly is feeling, and he doesn't like feeling that. He wants to feel comfort, he wants to feel safe, he wants to feel like he's loved, he wants to feel like, he can be and have connections with someone without them being torn away and ripped apart. He fears that, but he definitely wants bonds and connections. That's a big thing Denji is obviously seeking and, wanting, but every time he tries to get his hands on it, it's ripped away from him. So I do hope that, in general, this does lead to some good development for his character. Okay, now, with all that being said, we do need to talk about the chapter in this realm and what's going on in this aging devil's, situation here. How do they get out? Okay, so after looking at this chapter and last chapter, really thinking about it, the answer to getting out of this is not as simple as it seems, because Yoru herself literally states that she is not able to basically use her ability to turn the realm and the area, like the space, into a weapon, like she did with the Eternity Devil. So it makes it very difficult to get out of here by the means that we've seen previously. So the only way theoretically you could get out of something like this is if the Aging Devil lets you leave. Now, we know that the Aging Devil wanted to punish the War Devil and the Chainsaw Man, both at the same time. We know that. That's what happened in, the previous chapter. So, this is clearly a punishment. And since technically there is no fear of dying, they can be here for a very long time to discipline them and let them mature or whatever, come to terms with being able to come to the table and negotiate. But another thing that people don't understand is I don't think that the Aging Devil is going to allow, let's say, Yoru, Asa, and Denji to lose their mind. Hear me out on this one. So, obviously, one of the big things that the Aging Devil wants is to be able to make that contract with, the people in Japan, to be able to basically get eaten by Chainsaw Man, and remove the concept of aging itself. But the thing is that, if that indeed happens and they want that to go through, Denji needs to be able to have communication. And so does Puchita with, the aging devil. So if they go insane, then that's not to the advantage of, like, what the devil wants. So the devil's not going to allow them to stay here for thousands of years or anything like that. I really doubt that. But they're going to push them to the point to where they go almost insane. That's at the very least what I can think about this situation. And another thing I want to think about and talk about, actually, that is very symbolic to this whole scene, or this whole chapter, actually, and ties in with, Asa and Yoru's character, and mainly Asa, is she's running through the woods here, trying to figure out what to do, and she trips over Denji. Now, this is an old callback and an old little character trait that Asa herself pointed out a very long time ago, which was responsible for kind of kicking off the events of Part 2 of Chainsaw Man, and why she even came in contact with Yoru in the first place. But what Asa herself has said in the past, and remind everybody, is that anytime something very important happens, something very crazy or critical in her life happens, she always is clumsy or she trips. She did that with, like, the chicken and all that at the beginning of the story. She's tripped over things in important situations that put other people's lives in danger. And in this case, that exact same concept happens once again. She trips over Denji at a very critical moment, and you can look at this as, what is Fujimoto-sensei trying to imply here? That she tripped over Denji? Is he implying that, she's clumsy and this is going to lead to something very bad? Or is this implying that this is kind of a twist to fate that she's always had since the very beginning? And let's talk about that one. So, obviously, Asa's life has been nothing but tragedy. And that's not even talking about Denji's life. But Asa, she's always, in critical moments, like I said, she trips and problems happen. And I think that this could theoretically be the reverse of the situation, because let's think about the facts here, okay? Disregarding everything else after this scene, looking at the hard facts, like, she's in a situation where she's alone. Yeah, she has Yoru, but she's still technically alone in her own body. Eventually her mind will wander and she'll go crazy. So the fact that she found someone that she can have common ground with, and clearly Yoru and Asa have feelings for, it leads to the situation that was dire and very scary turning a little bit more lighthearted, and there's a little bit hope in the room. So I feel like Fujimoto is twisting the concept of anytime Asa trips, it's bad, into something that potentially could turn out to be good, because she found Denji in this moment. But that's my overall perspective of the chapter. So anyways, I'm going to leave it at that. I really like this chapter of Chainsaw Man. Fantastic, hands down, and I can't wait to see what, Fujimoto-sensei cooks up next week. I hope we get into chapter next week. Actually, let me pull it up on my phone, because, like, I know for some reason Fujimoto, he loves just taking random breaks. I don't know exactly why. I don't know if it's just the release schedule or not, but every time, like, he releases a chapter, I'm just like, when are we going to get the next one? So let me see here. Okay. It does not look like it's going to tell me. Well, that's not good. I don't know if we're getting a chapter next week. So, if we are, gonna be amazing. If not, well, it's gonna suck, because it's gonna be a whole week break. But anyways, I love you guys. Be safe. Stay healthy. Chibi out.